Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Tackle Box. This is episode 6. I can't believe that we're on episode 6. Thanks to all of you that have written to us, stopped by the store, and told us how much you enjoy listening to Jack. Not necessarily me. I don't know what that means. I guess they're just tired of listening to me. But we brought Jack back from college. Quite honestly, they were more than eager to get rid of him, to come back on down to film another episode. I don't know if that means something from your professors or not. If you're failing or what?
Not failing, just need a little break.
Your professors are in need of a little break from you as well. But I think I'm starting to realize what your mom and dad have gone through for the past how many years. So, but I appreciate him being by. We're going to do something tonight with this episode that we haven't done ever. And honestly, it's kind of the topic really isn't talked about a lot because it seems like a lot of people are almost afraid or even ashamed to talk about it, and that's about fishing from shore. And honestly, there's no reason to be ashamed or why it should be thought of anything less than fishing from a boat, because we all do it. There are certain times of the year that it may actually work better than fishing from a boat. So let's talk about that right now, Jack. Is there a certain time of the year that is better fishing from shore than others?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, your early springtime, like everyone knows, around the spawn when your water temps are maybe 45 to 50 degrees, it's definitely going to be your, most sought after time to go shore fishing. But it starts really, again, I would say right about now when your water temps drop into those low 60s or low 50s, kind of at the time we're approaching right now. And there's going to be, honestly, a lot less people out there this time of year than you typically see in the spring. So it's a great time to get out. Then maybe, you kind of had a break of. In the summer, it can definitely be a lot tougher, whether it's weeds that you're battling or just maybe a little bit tougher fishing in general. But now's a great time to get out and shore fish.
And when we're talking about shore fishing, obviously people are thinking about fishing from shore. But there's certain times of the year that guys will use waders, and you don't have to use waders. But tell me why a person would want to use waders when fishing from shore.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, waders are a great option, especially if you are maybe on a super shallow flight and you just want to get out a little bit farther. You maybe increase your bite window a little bit because there's only going to be a certain amount of fish that are going to come up in maybe that super shallow water. Although a lot of them definitely will, and so it can definitely be a great option, especially. If you just want to increase your bite window. With that being said, there's a lot of options, whether it be a road, a bridge, whatever it may be, that you don't even have to use waders. And some of the areas that I target for those shore opportunities are going to be like a bridge or a culvert. Especially this year, up in the north, we've had a ton of rain. So a lot of those culverts are still going to have moving water, and that can be a great option in the spring, but then again in the fall. A lot of bait fish are going to be around those areas and a lot of big walleyes. So.
And the fishing with waders, I know there's been times where I've been in waders, and the fish will actually, the walleyes will hit my legs. You can feel them, and you look down there with your headlamp or whatever, and you can just see the eyes moving back and forth. So again, there's certain times that you want to use the waders if you have them. If you don't have them, that doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a pair, but again, certain times of the year you might want to use them. Now let's talk about how do you recognize what areas of shore of the lake that you would want to fish.
Definitely. I would say some of the areas I like to target, whether it be spring or fall, are something with maybe a little bit more structure than the rest of the lake has. So maybe avoid some of your super muddy bottoms, not only because, especially if you're wading, it's a little bit harder to fish it in general, but a lot of your maybe a little bit rockier areas or gravel. A great option if you're fishing off maybe a road is if it has riprap along the shoreline. That's going to be a great option. The water's going to warm up a little bit quicker there, especially if you have sunlight. And yeah, there's going to be more walleyes that congregate around that and more bait fish in general as well.
I think of a dry lake. By Willow. Mm-hmm. There's a flooded roadway, numerous flooded roadways up there where guys will actually fish right off that road. You can just walk out there when the water is low enough. So again, once you become familiar with the little features of that lake, you can target certain areas like that and fish the old road ditches like you mentioned.
Definitely, and I would say in the past 5 years, there's not a better time of year than probably this year, just with all the rain we've gotten. All of those flooded areas, those culverts that typically wouldn't have a lot of flow in the fall are going to be really good this year because of all the rain we've had.
So now let's talk about certain lures that you would use when you're out shore fishing. Now some of these you probably can use from the boat as well. So again, don't throw away all your boat tackle if you have it, but we're looking at giving you some ideas that you can use from shore that's not going to cost you a lot of money as well. So let's talk about the first couple options.
Definitely, yeah. I think there's pretty much two main approaches, and there's a few different options as far as they go. So the first one would be some sort of swim bait, and shore fishing, I honestly like to go with some sort of pre-rig swim bait a lot of times, whether it be a mimic minnow or like the minnow tater here from Berkeley. That's a great option. And the reason why is because when you're fishing offshore, a lot of times your best bite's going to be, sunset or maybe even after sunset. And when it gets dark, it can be very hard to see, is my swim bait rigged perfectly, whatever it may be. So a pre-rigged option doesn't necessarily catch more fish, but it honestly can, just being that you always know you're fishing true. Another couple good options is going to be like an original floating wrap from Rapala, or even like a shallow flicker shad. Something like that, a lot of your walleyes, especially if you fish past, sunset into the night hours, are going to come into that super shallow water, 5 feet or less, and a shallow crankbait, especially this time of year. You're not going to have weeds left or anything like that. It's going to be a great option.
The original floating wrap, I love throwing that out at the Missouri River in Chamberlain in the spring right off the riprap. The reason why is because if it gets snagged, all I have to do is tighten that line up and just release it, and that floating wrap will come back up again. So there's nothing better than a floating wrap or a hit stick, Berkeley hit stick, for using that fishing the riprap out at Missouri, especially in the springtime. Now we also have something new this year that we brought back, and this is the time of the year when it really becomes more and more what we call minnow wrap season, and that's what we're talking about is the minnow wrap. You can use that from shore as well.
Definitely. I mean, people have been catching fish on them all year long, but to be quite honest, now is the time. Your post turnover, all the weeds are kind of gone. It's a lot easier to throw a crankbait, and it's a slightly deeper option than the couple like original floating wrap or your shallow flicker shad. It's going to get down to maybe 5 to 8 feet, and so most of your road beds or maybe just your typical wader fishing spots, you can get a little bit deeper and cover a little bit more water as far as that goes.
And we're fishing from shore. You're a little bit handicapped because of the fact that you have to go where there's an area where you can fish from shore. Some of our lakes around Sioux Falls are a little bit more metro, if you will, and there's not as much public land and more private, and so it makes it more difficult. So in some cases, you may not be able to get out to the best structure because that's private. So you're kind of just having to deal with whatever you can get to at that point in time. But that's where the research comes in handy to help you out ahead of time to figure out really what is the best option. Where's the structure at in that lake, and how close can you get to it?
No doubt. I mean, like you said, shore fishing, you're definitely handicapped in some regards with where you can fish, but where you're not handicapped is you can go, for an hour at a time, in the evening or even in the morning, but a lot of times in the evening. And, as a boat, you don't have to worry about all other stuff, loading the boat, unloading the boat. You can go there for an hour, target the best time of day, and honestly probably catch more fish than most people in the boat in that certain time.
There's no doubt, especially in the spring and the summer. I love when I close the store and all I do is take a drive out to, Twin Lakes, the Trophy Lake, and all I have to do is take a jig and a twister tail, and I'm good to go. So I can fish for an hour before sunset. Now the other way to fish, and a lot of people make fun of this a little bit, including Jack, is the crappie rig. I grew up using the crappie rig or some nature or any type of hook underneath a bobber. You can do that. The advantage of the crappie rig is that you have 2 different depths where you can fish. And if you've never fished with a crappie rig before, stop on by here at the store and we'll be more than happy to show you. It's, I almost want to call it a brainless way of fishing, but it's an effective way of fishing too. I mean, you fish at 2 different depths and see what, you can fish 2 different baits and see what actually happens. So you can keep that in mind. What else would you like to talk about as far as, fishing from shore? Is there anything else to keep in mind, other than, bait-wise, it really doesn't make any difference. It's the same thing as fishing from boat.
Not really. I would say the main takeaways are maximize the time when you're out there. You can be super mobile when you're shore fishing, and I would say maybe just like a lot of boat anglers do, take the time beforehand to maybe diagnose the lake, see what areas you can fish, and see what areas are maybe going to be most effective. Whether that means moving water, certain type of structure on the lake. There's a lot of ways you can access, even though you don't have a boat. So,
and if you don't know, a way to do the research on that lake, stop on by here at the store and talk to us. So we're very familiar with all the lakes, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with some certain locations to go and what to use. Because what we talked about here tonight is just a few lures. There's other options out there for you as well, including this option. If what Jack hadn't showed you, you pull out the big one. You pull out the big mama. That's for sure going to work, right? Yeah, you can't use this. You can hang it up or anything and talk about it. But again, if you're looking for one of those giant lures, we have them here on the hand as well. So again, it's been a great way to introduce shore fishing to people. And again, it's nothing to be ashamed of or anything like that. It's a very easy and effective way to fish at certain times of the year when you're using the right equipment and you do the right amount of research to really show you where that structure is located. But if you have any questions whatsoever, stop on by the store or give us a call at 605-336-9132. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks, and we'll see you the next time at Inside the Tackle Box.